Well, I want to welcome everybody to Fmt Consultants Get in Shape for your Dynamics GP 2013 upgrade. My name is Kevin Dupree. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development for Fmt Consultants. So I appreciate you guys taking about an hour out of your day to learn what you need to do to prepare and kind of what to expect. Our agenda for today is, first, why you should consider upgrading. Then, if you decide to do an upgrade, what you should expect, and then ultimately how to prepare for that upgrade, what you can be doing now, and then what you need to be doing right before the actual upgrade starts. And so with that, there's quite a few people that are joining us that Fmt Consultants is not currently working with. So I just want to make a brief introduction of our firm, who we are, and what our capabilities are, and then we'll dive into today's content about an upgrade to GP 2013. So Fmt Consultants, we've been in business since 1995, so we've been around for a while. We've done over 650 Dynamics projects since our inception. About 200 active clients currently. We've had a larger number of clients over the years, but kind of as the economy's waned and so on, that has kind of ebbed and flowed. We are a Microsoft Dynamics GP Gold certified partner, and then we're also a silver partner on the CRM side. In the Office 365 space, we are kind of the top of the heap there with the Cloud Accelerate partner, which is signifying not only competency but the adoption from our client community, etc. We have about 39 team members today. I think it's actually 40 as of this morning. And we are growing rapidly. We should be, somewhere by the end of summer, about 45 to 46 people. And our offices are located in Carlsbad, California, which is the northern part of San Diego County. As far as our practices and what our firm is capable of doing, as I said before, we are a Dynamics GP Gold certified partner. Been doing Dynamics GP since our inception in 1995, and then we also have all of these other technologies that we sell and support and consult on. And the big thing is we know how to leverage all of this technology and make it all work together for an efficient business solution for each of our clients. So let's get into today's content. And really for us and our firm, we try to look at upgrades for our clients as if we, if we're in the client's shoes. Would we as a customer spend the time, money, resources, etc., to upgrade to GP 2013? And with when GP 2010 came out and the large population of our client base was on GP 10, I would say that a lot of the vast majority of those clients actually opted to stay on GP 10 because there wasn't a return on that investment. There wasn't a compelling reason to go to 2010 for most of those clients. I mean, some of them wanted to take advantage of new features, etc., but we didn't see a huge adoption of GP 2010 from an existing install base. Certainly new customers adopting 2010, they had to, and we have a large population of that. So why should you consider an upgrade? Well, basically the first key point here is taking advantage of new functionality. And we're going to walk through just briefly some of the features that are incorporated into GP 2013. As I said, with the clients that were on GP 10 that were considering an upgrade to GP 2010, most of those clients now are considering an upgrade to GP 2013 because GP 10 support has ended. It ended the middle part of October of last year. And while FMT as a firm is still capable of servicing clients that are on technically unsupported software from Microsoft, most customers want to make sure that they're staying up to date with Microsoft and they're on a supported version, that if they do need assistance direct from the publisher, that they can get that. And that's not the case with GP 10 right now. And so we're seeing a large amount of our client base performing upgrades over the earlier part of this year, and then certainly the summer months are probably the busiest months for us right now from an upgrade standpoint. And then lastly, holding off and waiting to upgrade might require in the future to do what they call a multi-step or a multiple hop upgrade, where if you are on GP 9 or GP 8 Well, you might have to upgrade to GP 2010 and then from there upgrade to GP 2013. And so the upgrade becomes a little bit more time consuming and certainly a little bit more complicated. Time consuming not only in consulting services to help through that process, but also reconciling pre and post upgrade numbers. So running all the reports prior to the upgrade, moving to the intermediate version, having to tick and tie and reconcile all the information on out to make sure that there wasn't any kind of data issues during the upgrade process from the old version to the intermediate step. And then having to go through that exact same process again once you ultimately land on GP 2013. And so most clients are looking to kind of avoid that process there and step up to 2013 now. So let's talk about some of the new features with GP 2013. And what Microsoft has done is, and this is really just new features added since GP 2010, there's over 150 new features added into the GP 2013 software package. And we're going to walk through just a few of those. And we're going to start first off with some new technology that's been introduced. And that's actually the GP 2013 web client. And with clients that need remote access to their ERP software package, in the past we've had to do things using technology like Citrix or Microsoft's terminal services. And now with the web client being released with this release of Dynamics GP, we're starting to see users or clients moving away from those technologies. There's some added costs, obviously some added complexity because it's a different package or a different set of software that needs to be maintained and supported. And so we're starting to see a fairly rapid adoption of the GP web client. I can tell you that we were a little bit skeptical because, as with most Microsoft products, this is the first release of this solution. But we've been pleasantly surprised as to its capabilities. So it's Dynamics GP, but in a web browser. We've shown this a number of times, and certainly we can follow up with each of the attendees today and get you some more information about the web client, the look and feel, etc. And the big thing that our clients are asking is, well, with Citrix, with terminal services, I can kind of control the access, the security around that. How do I make sure that the web browser, the web client of Dynamics GP is secured? And so that's being done through HTTPS, SSL certificates, and other internet technologies that are out there that we've been using with like the Microsoft Business Portal, which is a web interface to Dynamics GP more from a read-only standpoint. And we're leveraging those exact same components now to roll out the GP web client to our clients. It's being released in phases, and so let's talk about those phases here. And originally, the phases, these 5 phases that you see on your screen defined, the assumption was that it was going to be actually rolled out over the course of about 18 months. And we're seeing that Microsoft's actually releasing the phases on a more rapid basis. And I think that's based upon the fact that this initial release is going so well that they're not having to scramble around and do bug fixes and service packs to correct that. And these service packs are now actually releasing out new functionality. So financials and distribution, so this is AR, AP, general ledger, bank reconciliation, etc. We're all part of that phase 1 release, as well as the distribution components of sales order processing, inventory control, and purchase order processing. But now the HR and payroll components are out, and soon to be released is the project series, and then you can see that ultimately in the next several months, if not probably a half year to a year, the field service and manufacturing suite will be completely rolled out, and that'll complete the entire offering that GP has through a thick or traditional client, the software loaded on a local workstation, and you'll be able to access all that functionality through a web browser client. And most of our clients are seeing that this is a great tool. You leave the office, you forgot to do something, run a report, process a transaction, whatever that might be, and they're able to quickly log in from really any workstation that they have. So maybe it's a home computer they're logging in, going through the security sign-in, and then they're able to get full functionality of the Dynamics GP modules and process the additional transactions that they need. So let's talk about some of the capabilities that are actually released inside Dynamics GP 2013. We'll talk first with some overall system-wide features and functions. So there are some enhancements to user security. These are more around the alternate modified forms and reports windows that you can now choose to view those by series and select multiple options at a time. So not a security overhaul, but just an enhancement to the ability to maintain security. Also, on the named user side, we'll talk more about that when we talk about the subscription changes, but how that's migrated from the business portal named user licenses into what they call limited users, which are now going back to concurrent. The middle box on that top row there, this is something that at least at Microsoft Convergence, the big Dynamics user conference that was in New Orleans earlier this year, believe it or not, it got a standing ovation. So for those of you that are attending the webinar right now that have been using GP for a long time, how many times have you printed a report out to the screen, taken a look at it and said, yep, that's the stuff that I want, but I want to go ahead and print that onto paper, only to find out that the default printer that you had selected is not the printer that you want to send the report out to. And so you have to close that preview window, select a new printer, rerun the report, and then have it come out to the printer that you want. Now at the time that you're looking at that preview, you can actually select a different printer and automatically print that to a different printer without having to go through that painful process. The area and home page, those are some new features. A lot of it has come through the web client or release to be able to kind of drag different elements of the home page, the area pages around, expand and contract, so really personalize the environment for you as a user, and have that be just your settings and not have to be more system-wide settings or role-based settings. Document attach is also something that we used to use the note feature inside Dynamics GP, still do, but inside that note feature you had the ability to attach an object linking and embedding or OLE object by clicking on a little paperclip icon. And that paperclip icon is now listed out on the top of the windows, and you're able to attach any documents through that window, user, date, timestamp, and the nice feature, at least what we're hearing from our clients, is that those documents are actually attached inside the database itself. So if you move from one workstation to another, or you're down the hall working with a colleague and you need them to call up that document, if for some reason you had it just connected through the OLE connection and it was a local storage document, you wouldn't be able to pull it up from somebody's workstation. Now you can do that because it's all embedded inside the database. And then finally, some additional features as far as password protecting some of the email enablement that came out with GP 2010 and is further enhanced in GP 2013, and support for 64-bit Outlook, which is something that we've been waiting for quite some time since GP 2010 was released in late May of 2010. Some of the financial series features on the general ledger side of things, year-end closing options. Not a huge thing, but for those of you that do the general ledger close, when you're going through and doing year-end close, the little small window would pop up on the screen, show you the retained earnings account that it was going to close out to and what the next journal entry number was, and you press a button and kind of sit there and hope that it was actually processing, or go to the process monitor and pull that up and take a look and see what was going on there. And now they've added a progress bar for the worrisome accountants. Myself, I'm kind of recovering from that. It's nice to see that it's kind of progressing along, and I'm not worried about the year end blowing up or whatever. I can see that it actually is doing something, and then go ahead and once it finishes, move on with my life. On the historical journal entry, a merging of the open year and historical inquiry windows so that you don't have to bounce between two different windows to look at different years if they happen to be once an open year, once a historical year. A lot of functionality to the Excel-based reconciliation tools, namely incorporating in the bank reconciliation module as well as the inventory control module. So now those control accounts in the ledger. So before we had the AP trade account, the AR account that we'd be able to reconcile, and the bank reconciliation side of things, the cash side of things. Now we can add fixed assets or the bank rec and inventory modules to that. And on the fixed asset side, the actual ability to produce a historical depreciation report. In prior versions, I've been personally, when I was on the consulting side, I've been working with GP since version 3.15. So we've been asking for this feature since as long as I've been working with GP, to be able to run a historical depreciation report. What did my book value look like this time last year? And up until 2013, we'd have to save those historical reports either electronically or in paper format, and go back to those records in order to take a look at those and see what my book value looked like. Now, just like you can with the other modules like AR, AP, the inventory control module, you'll be able to run a historical depreciation report for any prior years and be able to see that. Also on the mass backout side, if for some reason you've kind of miscategorized an asset, you put it in the wrong asset class, so it got the wrong useful lives, the wrong depreciation method, etc. You can identify that, roll it back, or mass back out that depreciation process, make the corrections to the appropriate assets, and then rerun the process itself. So allowing for some error correction or handling there that we didn't have in the past. And then finally, the intercompany asset transfer. If you have multiple databases and you're moving assets from one company to another or one database to another, you'll now be able to transfer that asset from one database to another and have all of the information flow with it. So you're not having to dispose of the asset in one company database and then re-enter all that information in the other company like you would have to in previous versions. So let's talk about payables and receivables. Some void enhancements on the payables side of things. What that means is the ability to, if you void a check, and during the check selection process, if you allowed the system to automatically apply unapplied payments and credit memos, in the past when you voided the check itself, it would put the net amount of that voucher, so the voucher amount less the application of credit memos or true debit memos or unapplied cash, and just put that net amount back in. Now it actually unravels the entire process and puts the unapplied payments and credit memos back into an open status so they can be applied against other documents. Some of the other components out here, some 1099 setup information to accommodate multiple form types that are coming from the government. On the AR side, multi-currency cash receipts. And then in the sales order processing module, starting to move into more of the distribution components. The ability to combine invoices. So if you are shipping multiple orders to a customer on a given day or a given period, instead of sending out discrete invoices for each one of those shipments, you can actually combine those orders into a single invoice and send that single invoice, which is a consolidation of the multiple shipments. Some suggesting selling side, and then some enhancements to the Word templates that were introduced in GP 2010. Some new capabilities there. Moving over to the procurement side, prepayment on purchase orders. So if you have customers, or vendors that require a deposit, maybe it's a new vendor that you're working with and you haven't established credit terms with that vendor yet, and they need a deposit up front. That used to be a process of processing a payables transaction and then having to remember or write a note to apply that payment to the voucher once the three-way matching of that PO receipt was done, to make sure that you didn't overpay a vendor for some reason. And now you can actually process a prepayment on a purchase order, and the process itself can also be controlled in that the purchasing agent or the purchasing clerk can request the prepayment, and then that can be sent over to the payables group for them to process that. Or the purchasing department, if for some reason there was a manual payment done, they can apply that manual payment to the purchase order processing process. And then certainly workflow that's been in the product for a number of versions now can apply to that as well. Some PO tolerance, what that means there is if you can set over and under receiving. So if for some reason you receive 97% of what you ordered from a quantity standpoint or a dollar standpoint, you can actually tell the system that if it falls within this threshold of 3%, automatically close the PO short. And so there's no process necessary to go back and edit the purchase order, closing those things on out. Tracking at serial lot numbers is advanced there in that we can keep information about serial and lot number information even when they're drop shipped directly to the customer, so that tie-in between sales order and purchase order processing. On the inventory control side, being able to inactivate, set items to inactive, similar to like the customer vendor hold process, a little tick box to turn that on. Reason codes as you're transacting, so maybe you're making adjustment transactions and you want to start applying reason codes to get some additional business intelligence out of the inventory module. And then one last feature just to identify them here is the multi-select serial numbers. So instead of selecting them individually, you can actually control, hold the control key down and click on the serial numbers that you're fulfilling for a particular order. So it's just making the user process a little bit easier. And all of these features are available. There's a PDF guide that's up on Customer Source called What's New in GP 2013. You can download that, and it will go into all of these features as well as the rest of the features that I didn't highlight in significant detail. And certainly we can help you from an FMT perspective evaluate or get some more information on some of these features that are out there. So let's talk about what to expect if you decide to upgrade there. Well, first and foremost is, there could be some potential licensing costs. We're not really seeing that with the clients that we've already migrated to GP 2013, but there is a licensing transition between the old licensing model and the new, and I'll talk about that in just one second here, that could result in, probably at the very least, the possibility that you may need to move the anniversary date of your maintenance. And so depending on the licensing model that you're currently on, you may have to re-up your maintenance with Microsoft at the time that you do the conversion. The question to be asked there is, well, I've already paid Microsoft my money for my annual maintenance program. What happens with those funds? Well, those are applied, so they're the amount that you're paying is actually prorated. So if you had 9 months of prepayment already left on your plan, you're only 3 months into your 12-month plan with Microsoft. Those 9 months would then be credited towards the cost of the renewal at that particular point, and you just pay the difference, the 3 months that would be left. And then, with a number of our clients, we're also seeing them upgrading the database. SQL 2005 and above is supported. We would recommend making sure that you're on at least SQL 2008, if not adopting SQL 2012, for a few reasons. A lot of it around the reporting and business intelligence side of things. There's definitely some added value to being on the later versions of Microsoft SQL Server, because besides just the database performance side of things, Microsoft has invested heavily in the business intelligence side of the database engine itself. And then hardware. Moving that next topic there, hardware may need to be refreshed. We'll point you at some resources to understand kind of what the system requirements are for GP 2013, but certainly something that you need to look at and figure out. And then a lot of our clients, I think they consciously understand that there's going to be an investment in their own time in an upgrade, but identifying, how many resources need to be involved in the process from a testing standpoint, a training standpoint, and picking the proper time where those resources are not constrained, that they're able to participate in the process, and those resources aren't going to impact your bottom line. They're not going to be, you're pulling billable resources or people that are processing the revenue of the firm out of the front lines for some training and testing process, and then your net income for a particular period drops. But making sure that you take a look at those internal resource commitments. And with all of our projects from an upgrade standpoint, FMT produces a detailed project plan that identifies not only our resources that we need to bring to bear on the upgrade, but also the client-side resources. And so that way you can use that detailed project plan as a gauge as to when those resources are going to be needed, and then we can adjust the schedule accordingly to make sure that those resources are available. And then finally, professional services. We don't have many clients that actually do their upgrade themselves without any assistance. We have a couple. but the majority of our clients are looking to leverage our skill set just from an efficiency standpoint. We do this day in and day out, and upgrades are ranging somewhere between $15,000 to $30,000, depending on the depth and breadth of the solution, meaning how many of the Dynamics GP modules are you using, and then integrations to other systems. Is Dynamics CRM involved in this, et cetera? Those things would all kind of come into that range and determine where you kind of wind up on the spectrum of costs there. Let's talk about licensing. So Dynamics GP 2013 is transitioning to what Microsoft is calling a perpetual licensing model. And really, the naming of it is different, but it's always been a perpetual license. And what I mean by that is that you buy the software up front, and you pay for it once, and you don't have to pay again, with the exception of that annual maintenance fee that gets you entitled to get the new versions automatically, etc. But during this transition process, the functionality gets transferred from either if you're on a modular-based licensing program right now, so you've bought the individual components a la carte, that's going to transition into functional suites. So they have different packs and starter packs, the extended pack, and some other components there. The concurrent user model that Dynamics GP has today, it's just a renaming of those and calling them full users. These are GP users like you have today. The light users, or the employee self-service users, those two boxes towards the right-hand side, are traditionally the business portal users. Well, those transition over into what's now called a limited user license. And so that still gives them access rights to Business Portal and being able to use the full functionality of Business Portal. However, Business Portal now in 2013 is offered up with unlimited user licensing. So when you transition, you can actually add more of your operations and your employees to the portal itself if you want to. But these limited users can be assigned to individuals, and those individuals can actually log into the GP main application, but do so in a read-only state. So if you have some people that you want to have inquiry and reporting capabilities, and you want them to be able to do that from within Dynamics GP, you'll now be able to do that with GP 2013. So there's a question that popped up that I didn't catch until now from Pete of, can we stay with SQL 2005 and go to GP 2013 and upgrade SQL at a later date? And the answer is absolutely. SQL 2005 is supported with Dynamics GP 2013, so you can certainly stay with that and then go ahead and plan out a database upgrade at a later date there. So not a problem there. So let's talk about some of the other components that we've mentioned from a cost perspective. Is hardware. So a lot of our customers at this particular point, when they're looking at the system requirements, there's hyperlinks listed out not only for GP system requirements that cover the server components of the database engine, as well as the client-side components, but also the web application and web client. So Business Portal, Management Reporter, kind of falling into this web application side, and then the web client, what's required there. They're finding that they might need to make an investment in additional hardware if they're in a traditional on-premise deployment where they have the servers and client-side software loaded locally. And at that point, it's just kind of logical to make an evaluation of, do we invest in upgrading our hardware and keeping our solution in an on-premise or a traditional model, or do we move to the cloud? And we're seeing more and more adoption as the cloud becomes more mature, that customers are wanting to divest themselves of the hardware, the infrastructure, and so on, and move their solutions up to the cloud because it's secure. Certainly, I'm not looking at client names, but we have a number of clients that are in a regulated state where they fall under, in the life sciences side of things, HIPAA compliance and some other features. And so the cloud has really kind of been able to address those issues and compartmentalize data, so these privacy laws are respected. But it's something to consider, and we can certainly help you with that evaluation, understand kind of what's involved in moving your systems to the cloud, what those costs are going to be on a monthly or recurring basis, and allow you to make an informed decision as to how you want to proceed, either sticking with on-premise model or moving that on. The migration to the cloud is fairly straightforward from a technical standpoint, and doesn't really materially impact the migration costs or the upgrade costs to moving to GP 2013. But we'll distribute the slide deck after the end of this presentation. You'll be able to go ahead and peruse the requirements, and then certainly we'll be following up with all the attendees to see if we need to have some additional conversations. Let's talk about timeline. So what should you be expecting as far as that goes? Well, there's some prep work. You need to prepare for the process, and it's work that you can do. It's not severely technical. It's fairly well documented, but it's work that needs to be performed. And traditionally, most of the prep work needs to be performed when users are not in the system. And so that's where it's going to come into off hours to do that. Or pulling the system offline during business hours to perform some of these maintenance routines, etc. And we're here to help you. It's not necessarily a requirement to use our services for that, but we're willing to do it. We're happy to do it. But we'll walk you through the preparation side of things, and then you can decide if you want to have us take care of it, because we have a few people that like to work in the early hours as well as the evening hours to do that, and we're happy to help. We would recommend a test upgrade. So test upgrade is done for a couple of reasons. One, identifying any potential data issues that are going to cause the upgrade itself to fail. By doing a test upgrade, if we encounter those errors, they can be mitigated prior to the production upgrade. Because the test upgrade is done offline of the production system itself, if errors are encountered, your business continues to run on the current version of GP you're using today. And so, one, it allows us to identify those data issues, if any. Two, it allows us to identify the timing of the upgrade itself, how long the process is actually going to take, so that when we do the production upgrade, we know that the processing of just the database changes are going to take, X number of hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever those things might be. And then we can plan accordingly, because that production upgrade, it's going to take your production system offline either during business hours or off hours, and you need to plan accordingly for that. And the test upgrade will allow us to identify that, and so we can calendar it in properly. Also, if there's any integrations or customizations that are part of your solution, by performing the test upgrade, it provides a platform that's now on GP 2013 with your data, that those integrations and customizations can be tested, and if necessary, updated to be compliant with GP 2013, and do so once again in a non-intrusive way of your production system. That test environment is also used for user training and testing. If you're on GP 2010, the user adoption, even GP10, is not severe, but you may want to take advantage of some of these new features that we walk through, and maybe you're going to look at on your own of the 150 or so that are included in GP 2013. Well, you're going to want to train your users up on how to do that, so that when the production upgrade is processed, they're familiar with the features and functions, and they're able to kind of walk in that first day of the new system and kind of hit the ground running and not have any decrease in productivity. And then also those users are going to be part of the testing process to make sure that all of the key business processes that you have are working properly in GP 2013. Certainly, if you're going to use the web client for some, if not all of your users, you're going to want to go through that process and make sure that everything's working as expected, the security model is set correctly, and that performance is working properly, because there is some performance tuning that may need to be done depending on the transaction volume that is being processed by your respective companies. And then finally, the production upgrade, like I said, that's done offline, off hours, and part of that production upgrade, depending on the deployment model, web client versus traditional, is also going out and updating local client-side code. So there might be visiting desktops as you're rolling the software on out, to the different desktops that needed to be applied to. The other big change here is Management Reporter. So GP 2010 supported FRX, and so there wasn't a requirement to move to Management Reporter. You could use Management Reporter if you wanted to, but you could also use FRX. And at least in the early releases of Management Reporter, there were some pretty significant performance issues with it. Management Reporter 2012 has addressed a lot of that, but they still exist. It's getting better. The things that we used to see where a report that ran in FRX in about 20 seconds that was taking an hour in the initial release of Management Reporter, those issues have been resolved, and so that's great news. But when you go to 2013, you are going to need to decommission FRX and move to Management Reporter, or look at a third-party reporting tool. And there's a few out there. We're partners with Profix, which is a Microsoft-based corporate performance management tool that does high-end reporting, budgeting, consolidation. We're also partners with BI360. Similar functionality, a little bit different on the technology side of things. And then there's cloud-based solutions out there as well, such as adaptive planning and host analytics. But the test upgrade process is going to incorporate a transition from FRX to Management Reporter. And that's, if you haven't been using Management Reporter before, this is where your FP&A users are going to spend some time in the training and testing process to make sure that all of the financial and management reporting that you're doing out of FRX today is working properly and it's footing correctly in Management Reporter once the migration occurs. So let's talk about how we prepare. So what can you be doing right now to get prepared for a GP 2013 upgrade? Well, first and foremost is making sure that you're on the right service pack. And what we're seeing there is, some clients that aren't on, an FMT managed services program or something like that, or have for lack of a better word, the discipline to make sure that they're updating their system on a regular basis. You need to apply a service pack. Currently, the GP10 and GP 2010 versions or build numbers that are supported that you can move directly to GP 2013 are the build number for GP10 is 10.00.1779, which is Service Pack 5 or higher. And on the GP 2010 side of things is build number 11.00.1860 or later. So you want to make sure that your build numbers are at least those numbers, if not higher. And once again, the hyperlink that you'll be able to access through the slide deck will take you right to the customer source page where you can see what build number you're on and are you supported to move directly to GP 2013. And if not, within the table where you see the build numbers on that page, there's other hyperlinks that will take you to the service pack page where you can download the proper service pack and apply that to your solution and be ready for that upgrade. Word of advice, I think it's common sense, but if you are going to apply a service pack, make sure you back everything up. You're backing up the Dynamics database, you're backing up all the company databases, and also backing up a client installation folder as well, so that you have a point of recovery just in the rare chance that the service pack fails to apply correctly, and you have the ability to roll the solution back, figure out what the problem is, or contact us, and we'll help you figure out what the issue is, resolve it, and then get the service pack applied. Registration keys. Because of the licensing transition with Dynamics GP 2013, you can't just log on to Customer Source and access your GP 2013 registration keys. You need to contact us or contact your partner to process an order. And like I said, most of the time there's no cost involved in it, but there's an order that needs to be processed with Microsoft to transition your account from the old licensing model to the perpetual licensing model. And we can walk through a simulation of what that order process will look like for you and let you know what additional features and functions you'd be entitled to after the transition occurs, and if there are any costs involved in it. And like I said, we haven't really seen that to date, but there is the potential, so we just, in full disclosure, we want to make sure that you're aware of that. We're also going to send out, as part of this webinar, the GP 2013 upgrade checklist. It's a PDF document that Microsoft has produced. You may already have it if you downloaded it off the customer source. But looking at the reports inside GP 2013, or inside your current version of GP, excuse me, that won't upgrade. And there's a list of reports on page 19 through 23 of that PDF that will list out all of the reports that do not upgrade. And so if you've made any modifications to those reports, and the majority of our clients haven't, but you should be aware of it so that that can be included in the upgrade process. And that's also another good point for the test upgrade. So if there are some reports that you've modified that aren't going to go through the upgrade process itself, once that test upgrade has occurred, now there's a platform to modify those new GP 2013 reports to make them look and feel like you want for your company. And then lastly is identifying all third-party or independent software vendor modules, ISV modules. There are a number of ISVs that do not register for whatever reason, that your company owns those modules on customer source or on partner source that we can see. So just making sure that there's a comprehensive list of all third-party modules or software that's included in the solution, and making sure that all of those third parties are compliant with GP 2013. Since 2013 was released on the 19th of December last year, we're really not seeing that there's any third-party software vendors that are still not supporting GP 2013. Most of the major ISVs that we work with are compliant as soon as GP 2013 is released, but there are some more obscure third-party solutions that might take a month or two, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 months after the official release of the version to become compliant with GP 2013. So just making sure that you have a comprehensive list of all the third-party modules that you have in there, and making sure that those are compliant. Once again, FMT is a partner. We'll help you with that. Make sure that that all of those things are going to work smoothly when you go to 2013. We do that at no charge. I mean, that's part of our account management process, and we'll help you through that. And then also any customization and integrations. Well, we're fairly familiar with our clients' customizations and integrations, typically because we're assisting in those. There may be some screen modifications or report modifications that you've done on your own that us or your current partner aren't aware of. And so just making sure that you have those things identified. There's a customization maintenance window inside Dynamics GP that will list most of those out as far as customizations within the application itself. But integrations, making sure that those are identified and they're included in the battery of testing that needs to be done to make sure that there's not going to be a problem when you actually migrate to GP 2013. So what else do we need to be doing as we get closer to, those are things on the previous slide of what you can do right now. As you're getting closer to the upgrade itself, what are some of the things that you can do to make sure that your system is ready to go? Well, performing database maintenance. There's the link right there, the hyperlink to customer source that points out the recommended maintenance routines for the database. But these are database consistency checkers. These are the Microsoft SQL Server database maintenance routines that are recommended by Microsoft. So this is, checking the database, re-indexing the database, updating the statistics and recompiling stored procedures in there. It's recommended by Microsoft that those be performed on a weekly or a monthly basis. Most of our clients are doing it more on a quarterly basis and not seeing any issues. But those are things that definitely need to be done at the time of upgrade or shortly before, and those are things that you can do on your own, or we can give you some assistance with that. But also performing the module reconciliations, and this is reconciling receivables, payables, inventory, purchase order processing, the inventory control modules, sales order modules, and there's a very prescriptive approach that needs to be followed to doing these module reconciliations. What I mean by that is they have to be done in a certain order. So you don't want to go off and reconcile the inventory module before you've reconciled the sales order and purchase order modules. And what these reconciliations are doing is they're just simply reading the historical open and work data and truing up the numbers. So it might be things like year-to-date sales activity or cash receipts on the receivable side. On the inventory side, quantity allocations of how much of a particular part number is on order, not only from a customer standpoint, but also from a vendor standpoint. And that's where, reconciling the purchase order module, reconciling the sales order modules, those things happen first, and then we true up the inventory control modules. All of these maintenance routines are published. They're in the actual manuals themselves, the module manuals that are available through the application or through customer source. And if you need a list of recommendations as far as what reconciliations need to occur and what order do they need to be performed in, certainly our customer care, our end user support group can help you with that. And then lastly, printing all the reports that are required for the upgrade itself and having users out of the system. I can't tell you how many times we've rolled into performing the production upgrade on a Friday evening at 5 o'clock, and the reports haven't been run, and there's still users in the system transacting, and so that means that backups haven't been run as well. And our consultants and the IT resources from your side, from the client side, are sitting around waiting for the users to exit the system, to finish the processes, to run all those reports. And what that could mean is, certainly if your internal resources, which are sunk costs, are sitting around, you don't want that to happen, but it's not. Sometimes dollars and cents aren't equated to those resources' time. But if you have consultants sitting around on an hourly basis and they're not able to do anything because the preparatory work hasn't been completed, you're not going to be happy about that. And so making sure that you understand the time frame that you're going to be doing this upgrade, disseminating that information, that schedule out to the user community, and reinforcing it with some reminders of, hey, we're going to be doing the upgrade this Friday. Make sure that you're wrapping up your work around 4 o'clock so that you got a little bit of a buffer. So by 4:30, 5 o'clock, they're wrapping it up so that the backups can be run, the reports can be generated, and the upgrade can go as smoothly as possible. So, more kind of the horror stories. I'm sure you're all an exception to what I just described, but just certainly something to keep in mind as you're going through the upgrade process itself. So what about Management Reporter? Well, a lot of this work is actually done as part of the test upgrade process. You can see that perform a test migration there. It's part of our methodology. But the things that you can be doing now that are specific to Management Reporter and the transition from FRX to Management Reporter is review the documentation. There is a guide out on customer source, that's called FRX to Management Reporter Migration Guide, and I think it might be entitled FRX to MR Migration Guide, because MR is the code word or the initials for Management Reporter. But taking a look at that guide, understanding it, looking at the Management Reporter Integration Guide for Dynamics GP, because there is a decision point that needs to be made, and we can advise you on how to do that. And that decision point is kind of towards the box on the right-hand side of, are you going to use the data mart or are you going to use the legacy integration type? While we're off on that side there, the legacy integration type is similar to what you have today with FRX. It's reading the information directly from the general ledger summary tables, or if you're running the report with account level detail or transaction level detail, it's reading the transactional tables, both the open year and historical year. And so you need to determine what you want to do on that. The legacy side of things, easier to deploy, but ultimately there's some performance issues to be concerned with. The data mart side, quicker from a performance standpoint, but it uses what's called a trickle integration, which means that as transactions are being processed inside Dynamics GP and journal entries are being posted, etc., that data is being moved over into another database, the data mart database. And so if you're trying to fine-tune at month-end close your financial statements and you're posting journal entries, maybe reclassing things or booking accruals or so on, and immediately wanting to run the financial reports to see the effect of those journal entries, the data might not be updated yet because it might take a few more seconds for those transactions to trickle on in. Once again, we can advise you on kind of what would be best for your specific solution, but take a look at those things because that's all incorporated in the integration guide for GP. Identifying all specification sets. FRX contains all of its building blocks, the rows, columns, trees, and the catalog reports that are in a specification set. If you've been using FRX for a long time, there's a propensity for sprawl to start occurring. That instead of just having one specification set that all the users use and access, users start defining their own specification sets, and then those reports that they might build in their own specification set don't get incorporated into the master set. And so then when you're upgrading, suddenly reports are disappearing and you don't know why. Well, they're disappearing because we're upgrading this specification set, and if we don't know that there's other building blocks out there or other reports out there in another specification set, they might not get pulled into the upgrade process itself. Once again, there's a setting inside FRX that points to where that specification set is located, and so you can start identifying by just doing a little bit of a workstation audit to see where they lie. Purging. Purging information out of these spec sets of companies, catalogs, row formats, column layouts, trees, the building blocks that you're not using anymore. Maybe you created a one-off scratch report and you said, I'm going to go and kind of delete the row and the column layout that I created for this, and then you forget about it. So then now's the time to go through and purge those things because then the upgrade from FRX to Management Report is going to go a lot quicker, smoother, and you're not going to have to deal with kind of cleaning up those obsolete building blocks once they're in Management Reporter. And then lastly, because we talked about the performing a test migration and the data mart versus legacy, is it's recommended not only by us but also by Microsoft to archive these specification sets and archive FRX for about 6 months. And because you might not identify that you need a particular report and you didn't see it because it was part of the Q filing, and you just finished the previous quarter's report, and you're not thinking about the next one for 3 months. Well, when that comes around and you're looking for that report to run and you can't find it, that's where kind of the panic sets in because I need it right now in order to finish up my job. By having FRX archived, you're going to be able to pull that and pull those building blocks and incorporate those into Management Reporter, either importing them in through the import wizard, or simply copying and pasting those components. If FRX is still up and running, even though it won't run against the GP 2013 database, you can still open it up, access the building blocks, copy and paste them into Management Reporter. So with that, how can FMT help you? Well, I've already mentioned before that we can help you identify, is there licensing costs? Is there licensing costs moving to the perpetual licensing of GP 2013? Is there licensing costs on the SQL Server side of things or other components there? And we can do that as part of the value add that we bring to all of our customers in identifying those things so that you can plan accordingly. We talked about the hardware refresh that may be required in order to support the 2013 requirements, and comparing that versus moving that infrastructure up into the cloud and kind of renting or infrastructure as a service components. We can help you with that as well. And then, how much professional services are you going to need as far as this upgrade goes? Well, that's where we'll prepare a comprehensive statement of work for your upgrade with that detailed project plan based upon your specific solution so that you know what those costs are before you incur kind of a single penny, and you can plan accordingly for cash flow reasons and other purposes there. If you want some more information from us, you can certainly contact us. There's our direct telephone number right there. Our website is fmtconsultants.com. We have a GP 2013 landing page, which is just right after our website /GP 2013. We'll take you to a lot of information about GP 2013, as well as upgrade documents, checklists, etc. I know our marketing team and our account management team will be following up with each of you individually to make sure that your needs are met. But if you want some self-help, you can come to our website there, or navigate customer source to the various hyperlinks that we have in this slide deck here. So with that, Well, I'll take any other questions. The questions can actually be answered through by just submitting them online by typing the question on into the GoToWebinar. Or from an attendee standpoint, you can raise your hand, and what I can do is I can unmute your line, and you can ask your question, verbally there. So we have a question. We've already answered Pete's question before about SQL 2005 is supported. And Tom's asking a question here about hardware requirements. If Windows 7 is mandatory on the client side, and I don't believe that it is. I can't remember the client-side operating system specifically. I think it's Windows XP and above, but don't quote me on that. We'll get to the actual client-side requirements through that hyperlink that I showed you before, but I don't think Windows 7 is a requirement to go to GP 2013. And then to answer your other question, if you are not on Windows 7 for some reason, if it is required, which like I said, I don't think it is, you certainly could use the web client to access the GP application because you wouldn't have any client-side code issues there interacting with the local client-side operating system. And we can get somebody from our IT and infrastructure team to dive into some more details on that. Daniel's got a question here. I saw online where you can upgrade from version 10 to 2013 directly if you're on the latest service pack. True or false? That's actually true. So service pack 5 and above. We talked about those build numbers before, where it's a build number that ends in 1779. Let me just double check my notes here and make sure that is the appropriate build number. So bear with me as I flip some printed pages here to get to that, so that I give you the right information. I just saw this. There it is. Yeah, it's 10.00.179, which is Service Pack 5 or above. There was some payroll and HR application service packs that came out after that that push that build number beyond the 1779. But certainly you can go from version 10 directly to 2013 as long as you're on that service pack. The Service Pack 5 installation, if you're not on it already, is something that you can certainly do yourself. Once again, kind of, the cautionary side of things is making sure that everything's backed up, not only the databases, but at least one client-side workstation so that you have a point of recovery. So is there any other questions out here? I appreciate the interaction. I know that these webinars sometimes, if you're begging for questions, it's sometimes a lonely thing there. So I appreciate that. Anybody else have a question before we sign off? We got about 1 minute left before I let you guys get back to the rest of your day. All right, I don't see any other questions there. I certainly appreciate you all taking an hour out of your day to learn about this. Hopefully this has been an educational session, and you understand kind of what the value that is that FMT is going to bring to help you through this process. We look forward to talking to all of you in kind of the next day or so, following up with any other action items from our side. And we look forward to a successful 2013 upgrade for each of you. You all have a good rest of the day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.